and welcome, msKIRAspeaks. Before we get started, I ask that you watch the videos till the end, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. Instead of getting into all the apologies and the what had happened was, we're going to get right into the review. We're here for another episode of the Real Housewives of Atlanta, Season 14, Episode 9, Midnight in the Chateau of Good and Evil. So as the episode opens, we start as we normally do. We're checking in on the ladies, and we see Drew. She's taking the baby to school. So cute. And Ralph, he's complaining about her driving. We see Candy, and she's getting the babies together. Ace, he's having breakfast, and she's trying to get Miss Blaze's parts right. And then we see Sheree, and she's with her daughter Tiara at her A Little Kiss and Tell podcast with a homegirl, Fatum. So they start talking sex positions, and they're talking landslide. And Sheree's face, priceless. But I was right there with her. What's a landslide? So apparently, the woman is on her belly and forearms, and the man is behind, leaning on his hands. And y'all just go ahead and Google the rest, cause child. So they're there and they're chatting it up when Tiara gets breaking news on her phone. Sheree and BF Tyrone not speaking following a scene that almost ended him back up in prison. Okay, Tyrone. And I was just like, wow, really? Even Sheree was kind of like that. Sheree was like, no, he wanted to be on the TV to tell his side of the story. She says she's pissed and they haven't talked, and he is still blocked. She says he's probably the one that leaked the pictures. And in her confessional, she says this is the ultimate betrayal and she's about loyalty. So she's done. She says she feels scammed and she dismissed the warnings. Wrong move, boo. That's a fatal mistake. And sometimes us women, we want to ignore the Yelp reviews. Shout out to the Erica De Niro. Because you're not about to get any different results. So girl, run. Then we see Fatum and Tiara and the crew, and they're bigging Sheree up and, giving her a little boost of confidence following this pure foolishness. Have you guys seen Candy's speak on it? She said the daughter's podcast is giving her candy-coated vibes, and I still haven't got to check it out yet. What about you guys? And we're going to breeze through this scene. We see Marlo and the boys, and they're at home. And in her confessional, she tells us the same thing, that following the phone call with their mom, that they've been acting up ever since. They're not listening, they're not cleaning, and she doesn't know what to do. The older one is even getting reports from school, and Marlo's trying to ask him what's going on, because he's telling the teacher she don't get paid to argue with him. I mean, she doesn't, but it's the audacity for me. So then, she's asking them if they feel like they need therapy, and they're like, no, kids, boys, no, we don't need no therapy. We don't want no therapy. And I'm sitting there like, these kids should have been in therapy the minute they got to Marlo, because they had a lot to work through. So she's just trying to let them know that they're loved, and, when life gives you lemons, but she feels like she's failing them. And I kind of felt her a little bit with this one, minus the school problems, because luckily my kids don't play those games. But you're trying to provide the best you can and trying to do the best you can, and they're just pushing back. Kids sometimes they just don't get it. It's the best. That's the best I can say for it. In her confessional, Marlo says her mission is to shape them into stronger, smarter, independent young black men. And that's tough. Amen to that. She says prayers for her and prayers for them. We see Kenya putting together a charcuterie board when Sonia stops by to visit. So they chitting and they chatting and they're talking about this house full of people and how do you have sex with all of those people in the house? So in her confessional, Sonia laughed. She said they be sneaking in closets and doing it in the car, and it's just like they're in college. And I mean, I guess if that works for you. But she tells Kenya she feels blessed, and she doesn't know how she does it, and they start talking a little bit about being a single mom. And Kenya, she says it's hard because that's not what she signed up for, but then again, who does? And you know, if Kenya says it's hard and she has the resources, connect those dots for me, if you will. So we see Kandi FaceTime Kenya and they discuss Drop It with Drew and her uninvited guest. So Kandi, she breaks the whole thing down again about the man jumping the gate, including the part where he was related to Beyonce and Kandi told him to come by. She tells them he was given a warning, so if he comes back, it's off to jail he goes. Kandi says it was weird and scary, Sonya adds. So they're glad that she's okay, and when they hang up, Kenya and Sonya, they get back to talking about Drop It with Drew. Things went 0 to 100 with Marlo, and Sonya says the whole thing was out of control. Kenya talks about her calling her a liar, and if she's supposed to be her friend, why are we doing all of this? Good question. Kenya says she's good on it. The definition of crazy is doing the same thing and expecting a different response. Amen to that one. So we are at Chateau. Sheree and Fatum comes bearing drinks. So we find out that Fatum is from Djibouti, Africa, and Sheree and her have been friends for a few years. So the two, they head to the basement, which you know I love because it's giving like lounge vibes. And they're gonna go have some girl talk. Fatum asks how she's doing and she talks about the blogs because she's pulling up just different headlines about the foolishness. Sheree says she hasn't talked to him and she questions if he ever really loved her. How do you love someone and do this? She feels duped. He robbed her emotionally. And then she starts with the crocodile tears talking about she feels stupid. And I shouldn't call them crocodile tears. I'm just totally over this whole Tyrone storyline. So she's crying and she's walking around and she's covering her face. And the whole time she's trying to hide her face from the camera because we never do see the tears because she kept that face covered. And she's upset in her confessional. She says that was somebody that she trusted. She says she wasted years on this man and this relationship, and that's time that she just can't get back. And that's a whole word. Ladies, think about that while y'all out there wasting your time. That's time that you are not going to be able to get back. Trust. So the ladies talk a little more. Sheree says something about him not being on her level, and Fatum was like, we knew he was trying to tell you without telling you. And then they cheers to dating, love, success, and happiness. So Drew, she's with her pastor mama, and they're about to get pedicures, and I just love the mom's purple hair. So mom is visiting from the Shy, and Drew fills her in that Ralph is writing a book on being a step-parent. So she says the assistant that the mom met is the one that got him the book deal. Wow. And Ralph resented Drew because she felt disrespected by the woman, and so he had to fire her. They both agree that the book can be important, and then the mom asks about Ralph adopting Josiah. Drew says that Josiah would love it, that he's the only dad that he ever knew. And you know, Josiah has a biological dad that we saw last season, and let me continue and then I'll finish. But let me just say that Drew's issue with Ralph writing the book, while it's important, is how you're going to write a book when you haven't gotten your household in order, if that makes sense. Mom says she thought it would happen when they changed Josiah's last name to Pittman. And Drew says she doesn't know why. And in her confessional, she says she understands Ralph with it being a respect thing for Josiah's father, but they haven't seen him in forever. And shame on that man for not having no more time with his son. Frankly, the whole thing was a little confusing. Yes, like I said, the book is necessary. And yes, I actually agree with Drew that you need to get your affairs in order when it comes to the adoption before even really worrying about this book. But that is just my 2 cents, and we're going to move on to the next thing. So Drew's mom, she met with the sister, I believe's prophet friend, Prophet June, who had a word for Miss Drew. So she plays the message where the woman is saying that Drew has an adversary, possibly a woman or a man with a feminine spirit. Drew, she starts looking at everyone. Could it be Sonya? What about the assistant? Her assistant, not Ralph's, which it could be his. What about Sheree? What about Kenya? Oh, I hope it's not Kenya. Then Drew brings up to her mom about Sonya turning on her, and she brings up that shady, y'all act like y'all busy comment. And as they're wrapping it up, the mom is like, girl, you got to keep your eyes open. Like, who do you have in your circle? What is going on, hunty? And I was with the mama on that one. Marlo is shopping for her new home. She says it'll be ready in 12 to 14 months, but furniture is taking a long time to come in. So she wants to get the jump and order it now, so when the house is ready, she'll have some furniture to actually put in there. So Sheree and Sonya, they come and they join her and they're talking interior decor. Totally above my pay grade. She's asking Sheree the most expensive room, and Sheree says her living room. She spends at least $40,000. I mean, I've got a $10,000 chandelier. Miss Candy wanted to know on Speak On It, as well as the people in the streets, how is Sheree getting her money? Drop down in the comments and let me know. No, I'm just kidding. Let me keep moving. Sheree then tells the lady she wants to have a pajama party sleepover. Well, who all's gonna be there? Marlo wants to know. I'm inviting all the ladies. Well, you better tell Kenya, don't try me, Marlo says. And then in her confessional, she says, Sheree's house is big enough that I could be on one side and Kenya could be on the other. But we know that's not how that's about to go down. So the ladies, they sit and they chat. And Marlo's like, that wasn't Kenya. I've never seen Kenya act like that before. And she tries to insinuate that she may be on some diet medicine. Whatever, Marlo. So Sonya's like, well, I was with Kenya yesterday. And the ladies are like, oh, shoot. And she's like, no, Kenya felt really blindsided. Why would her friend call her a liar? And then Sonya asked Marlo, well, can you not go below the belt? And Marlo's like, I don't know how. I would have to take a class. And I mean, at least she's honest, but damn. So then Marlo mentions that she met with Sheree's referral from her life coach. She says that she may take the boys, Michael and William, to go see him because he speaks to kids. Marlo admits that she freaked out the other day. She was pissed. She went to bed, and when she got up the next morning, she told them she was taking him to the laundromat. Laundromat? Was this their punishment? Because I know you got a washer and dryer up in there. So Monday comes and they go to school. Marlo goes and she checks. The clothes are damp. The clothes are smelling sour, because you know what happens when you let damp clothes sit. Ew. She says Michael punched a wall, and then she shows the girls footage of the room looking crazy, and she's going through this is this and this is that, and child, it was a lot. She says it's been almost 3 years and she needed a break from them, so she kicked them out. Huh? What? Where did they go? Marlo says she took them to her little sister Crystal's house. And I was thinking to myself that single mothers, we really do need a little extra help, but I don't know that this was the way. As the ladies keep talking, they get a little further into it, but Marlo and Candy have a really good conversation later on in the episode. Marlo says her sister has 4 toddler boys and she gets it done. Now, I don't know that was the greatest idea, and them 2 big ones, they better be over there helping with them doggone toddlers. She says it's a 30-day wake-up call. Sheree in her confessional says she never had a break from her kids. Would she like to? Hell yeah, but she never got the opportunity. And that's most single mothers. She tells Marlo that she needs to dig deeper and figure out why she felt like she needed to kick the boys out. So Marlo, she brings up her childhood and how hard she worked. I think Marlo feels like they're spoiled and maybe a little ungrateful, and I get it, but again, this ain't the way. Marlo says she fears for them. Don't we all? The ladies give her a pep talk and tell her to give herself some grace. Sonya challenges her over the 30 days to figure out how it's going to be different when the boys come back. And honestly, I was hoping the whole thing didn't backfire. I get you want a little break, you go to the spa, or maybe, a little weekend getaway or something, but then you jump right back into the doggone thing. Marlo just has no idea. So Kenya and Sonya FaceTime, and Kenya brings up the last lady sleepover. Can we say Bolo? We see Sheree's people in there setting things up, and it looks like the ladies are gonna do a paint and sip. Sheree says she wanted the ladies in nude and different shades of melanin, which represents stripping off the negativity of past relationships and bearing it all. The ladies start to show up, and we see Fatum and we see Kandi. Dang, Kandi got there early. Usually Candy's one of the last people there. Fatum, she shows Kandi the coochie incense that she got for Sheree to cleanse away all that bad energy. Kenya, I think, is there at that point, and then we see Sheree, and she comes in to join the ladies. Sonya shows up, so they start having the little appetizers. Kandi says she loves that Sheree has the good food, and I hear that because your girl, she loves to eat. Kandi asks if Marlo's coming. Sheree's like, yep, and I invited Drew too, although I haven't heard anything from her. Then, thanks to Sonya, we're talking to Fatum as she's talking about Drew blacking out on her. I don't know what response she thought the lady was supposed to have the way she was talking about her husband. But okay, Fatum, okay. Then Fatum reveals that her friend ran a background check on Ralph and Drew, and they have several aliases. Yikes. Now, how do you guys feel about this lady running a background check on her and then going to tell the ladies about it? I don't know how I feel about it, but drop it on down in the comments. The things that they do for TV, child, I tell you. In her confessional, Sheree says Drew and Ralph are hiding something. Kandi suggests maybe it's bad credit, and maybe it is, and maybe it's not. Because Kandi says something about Ralph and Drew, or Ralph being like Tommy, and that they don't know what he does. But I could have swore from last season that we knew Ralph was in IT, but okay, girl, okay. So Moneta arrives, and then some of Sheree's friends that I wasn't familiar with. And then finally, Drew shows up. And she is wearing the same outfit as Sheree. She kind of accidentally gives Fatum a hug, and then she's like, after she realized who it was. And then she starts thinking about who this adversary could be that Prophet June was talking about. Marlo arrives, and Kenya in her confessional calls her a Sasquatch and a lace front. These ladies. So the ladies, they head on down for the basement. And I need to think of another word for basement, because I don't know, basement sounds so boring, and I just love hers. It's just so beautiful. It's anything you ever want to think of, she has got down there, but we already know. So everything is set up all nicely, and we can see that they're about to have a paint and sip. And Kandi wants to know if they're going to have nude models. And lo and behold, here come the nude models. Kandi in her confessional tells us those ain't her people. We can tell, Kandi, we can tell. But then I was thinking to myself, why do they need nude models when the pictures were pre-drawn? It wasn't like they were just painting the models. So inspiration, colors, child, I don't know. So the ladies, they start to painting and enjoying, and then we see the OG Lisa Wu come in. In her confessional, Sheree says that's her girl from back in the day. They still hang out, and Lisa is the life of the party. And Lisa and Sheree both were on one of Carlos King's nightcap a time. So then we get confessionals. Kenya says, obviously, Bolo didn't make an appearance. Marlo says she didn't know she was going to be on Naked and Afraid. They were naked and she was afraid. Okay, Marlo. So Drew talks to Sonya privately about the comment that she made to Ralph, and Sonya insists that she wasn't being shady and that she felt offended because how was he going to quantify how busy they were? Whatever, Sonya. So again, in her confessional, Sonya says she didn't mean anything by it. I call bullshit. She keeps talking. She says, and then I was talking to Drew, and Drew's like, Drew, because she wants to clarify, were you talking to me or were you talking to Ralph? And Sonya's like, well, y'all both have boy names. Are you making fun of my name? Now, Drew, you took it a little too far there, because that wasn't that. And Sonya's like, I'm just trying to have a good time. I'm not here to argue with you. And so Sonya walks away. And yes, I know, or we know, that Drew can be annoying. But sometimes it feels like Sonya just doesn't know how to communicate. Like she just got all in a huff and walked away for nothing. It wasn't even that serious. So Kenya says she's drunk or almost drunk. And then they start to setting up for dinner. Marlo, she goes to wash her hands and she runs into Kandi and they have some conversation. So Kandi asks Marlo what she's been going through. And Marlo says, you know, she's been going through a lot. She kicked the boys out. Marlo says she told them to get the F out. And Kandi was like, no, you didn't say that. And I was with Kandi. Just wow. So they go into another room and they continue to have this conversation. Marlo says she is not as strong as she appears to be. She says she thinks that's why she keeps going off on everyone. And Kandi wants to know, well, where are the boys? Marlo tells her that at her sister's, she was losing herself. She was drinking more. She was stressed. She was crying more. She says she needs therapy. Marlo, you needed therapy a long time ago. Kandi says, you've given them this life and then you tell them to get the F out. That would make them feel away. Marlo says at the time that's what she needed to do because she was going to lose it. Marlo starts crying and she says that she's not doing right by them. Kandi admits to being mad at her and being thrown off by Marlo being nice. In her confessional, Kandi says she has sympathy for Marlo. She understands she took on a lot, never having had children. But when she decided to take on that responsibility, she should have accepted the fact that she was going to have to put her feelings to the side. And I agree with that one. You have to take the good with the bad. You can't just drop them off somewhere. Marlo says she had hoped Kandi would receive her being nice because she needed it, and Kandi received it. In her confessional, Marlo says Kandi is showing up as a friend, listening, and she seems to care. Kandi tells her, definitely seek therapy, but there's got to be a better way with the boys. And then they hug it out. And I love to see it, but this is Marlo, so unfortunately, we know it's not going to last. And my last thought about this whole thing with Marlo and the boys is she keeps telling everybody she came from foster care. So she should have known better. She has to know that what she did is definitely going to affect them. So we get back to the fun. Everyone's around the table, and they're about to eat good and they're talking and they're chitting and they're chatting. Everyone thanks Sheree for inviting them and she tells them that she needed this. She was in a horrible situation for a few years. Now she's ready to shed all that negativity and get out of her little funk. The naked thing is being vulnerable and bearing it all. You too fine to be in a funk, Sonya says. And Sheree's like, you right. So Kenya's like, we should play a little game. And I was like, damn, here we go. But she's like, every time somebody says something positive, we say, yes, queen. Okay, Kenya, we'll go with that one. So Sheree suggests that they go around the table, and Drew's like, well, Kandi, you and Marlo were just off to the side. What happened? Kandi tells them that Marlo basically shed some light on a few things and they're in a better place. Yes, queen. So they're going around the table and it's going well until they get to Drew. I'm happy I'm getting along with almost everyone here. Crickets. No, queen. Kandi says, we'll circle back around. So Lisa Wu, she says a word, and then Kenyon is a little, chiming in, and then we circle on back to Drew. And Drew says almost the same exact thing. And Kenya's like, Drew's like, what's the face? You said the same thing. Start over. In her confessional, Sheree says Drew doesn't know how to take a compliment. And it should have been a hard stop there. But she continues, that's because she's not used to getting them. Poor thing. Shade. So there's some more conversation and we're looking at Fatum, and Drew says that she loves her enemies. Child, when it comes to Drew, I just be exhausted. So Lisa Wu starts speaking her speech about the apology will never come. And I don't know if we missed something. And Kenya, she goes to interject, but Lisa, she keeps pushing on. So Sonya tells her, like, listen, you've been talking for a lot. Like, hold on a second. Let Kenya say what she had to say. And Lisa was basically like, but you gonna let me finish, though. You gonna let me finish with the F I had to say. And it's funny because in her confessional, Sonya, she called her the little drunk auntie, but she didn't have all that smoke for Lisa Wu that she be having for Drew all the damn time. She knew better. So like I said, Drew was looking in direction of Fatum, and she's looking for an apology. And Fatum is like, you're not going to get no apology, girl, so you might as well let it go. So Kenya's like, well, let's get into that, because obviously Fatum is bothered. And she's bothered to the point where she ran a background check on you guys, and they found a bunch of aliases. And Drew's like, are you a stalker, though? So like I said, Kenya brings up the aliases, And Fatum's like, your assistant said it, so I checked into it. And Drew does not know how to properly defend herself. They bring up Danielle because that was one of the names. And she's like, Danielle is an assistant. And everybody thinks Danielle might need to hide her social security number. Not the people on the show, but the people on the street. So Drew is ignoring the lady as she talks. She says something about the lady being drunk. And Kenya chimes in. And Kenya's like, drunk, sloppy drunk, on the floor. Just, Kenya was a whole hoot. And everybody said so. We go on over to those confessionals. Sheree says, Kenya can be drunk every day for her. She loves it. Candy says she loves drunk Kenya. Drunk Kenya is the true Kenya. And I mean, she was a happy drunk. So, I guess. She was giving us a good time. Drew and Fatum, they're going back and forth. Kenya, she, like I said, she's a good time. She breaks up the whole thing. Be like, wait. I have a serious question. Is my wig on straight? A mess. So Fatum signals Candy it's time for the incense. So Sheree's got to change. So Kenya goes with her to change, while Candy and Fatum, they get the incense going. Fatum mentions that the incense sticks to the hair. So if she doesn't have hair down there, it's not going to do any good. So Sheree comes back downstairs in her dress, and Fatum explains how we're moving from the negative energy into the positive energy. And she stands over, and it's kind of like, I guess, the vag steam that you get when you go to the spa. And they blurring the screen and things are going slow and they laughing and they dancing and Kenya's twerking and African dancing and everything. Child, it was a whole time. Sheree in her confessional says she feels a tingle. Like I said, folks are having a good time and I'm here for it. And here comes Drew being a Debbie Downer and calls it witchcraft. I be trying to like Drew, but she's so judgmental. So Kenya says, let's toast. And Marlo's like, I love this moment because there was a time we couldn't say anything about your wigs. And Kenya's like, you always busy trying to say something about me. She is the moment. Marlo's like, not to your baby daddy, not to Mark. Marlo, nobody cares. Nobody cares about Mark, and neither did Kenya. That's why she was, I am the moment, all in the camera, swirling and everything else. She gave no F's. So Marlo says this is an amazing, positive night, and she wants him to join her to recharge. In 4 days, pack a bag, and let's take a road trip to Blue Ridge Mountains. So Kenya is laughing, and they go to toast some glass over somebody's head. Kenya and they just spilling stuff. I don't know whether the glass got broken or not. And in her confessional, Sheree says she knows they mamas taught them better. Sheree, maybe not these two. No shade. So Kenya, she starts to run all through Sheree's house, and now you know Sheree don't like you going nowhere you ain't supposed to be, because you remember Kenya before in the basement. So she comes back, and they toast, and they, yes, queen. And that is where we end. Actually, Bravo gives us a mid-season trailer. How did you guys like the episode? Drop down in the comments and let me know. I like the episode. Anytime we get to see Chateau Sheree is a good time, and that mid-season trailer was everything. Got me looking forward to the rest of the season. If you have made it this far, put that champagne glass emoji down in the comment, because cheers to the ladies. I hope you'll come back and join me for my review or recap of episode 10. I was trying to give y'all a recap with this one, but then they decided to make the hour over an episode long. I think it was like an hour and 15 minutes. My bad. Anywho, while you're here, please check out some of my other content. Thank you. And before you go, like, subscribe, and share. I appreciate you. Peace.